Something huge is brewing for the Toronto Blue Jays, and their interest in Max Scherzer and Pete Alonso has been clear for the past few days, but a brand new report has dropped from Ben Nicholson Smith revealing a huge tidbit of information surrounding the Jays' pursuit in both Pete Alonso as well as Max Scherzer. We're going to dive into this report from Ben Nicholson Smith and discuss what it means going forward, as well as discuss some other rumors and reports that are circulating that have Jays fans pretty amped up. We're going to break all it down in this episode, but before we get into it, folks, if you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, about 71% of you who are watching aren't subscribed. We're on the road to 16,000 subscribers, producing multiple videos a day. I see your guys' support down below, so a quick note, thank you guys. It means the world to myself. Thank you very much for your continued support, and make sure to hit that subscribe button, as again, this is the place to be for daily Jays news. This report just dropped. It just dropped, and again, I'm going to keep you up to date throughout this offseason, throughout the next few days, because things are really starting to pick up. But let's not waste any more time. Let's dive right into it. We're going to be touching on Max Scherzer. Now, I had a video a few hours ago talking about this Jon Heyman report, and this one is going to be very interesting because at the time of the report, we didn't know too much about it. But again, in case you missed that, this was the report from earlier today, and it said that the Jays had a meeting with Max Scherzer. I think he basically told him, look, I want to win. You guys won 74 games last year. Let's see what the roster looks like before I decide what I want to do. I don't think it's millions that are going to decide what he wants to do. He wants to go to a winner, and this is the key part. If they sign Pete, that's a pretty good middle of the order, right? So I think Toronto is probably the most likely team. Now, Ben Nicholson Smith went on the JD Bunkus show, I believe it was that, and he said a couple different things. One, lots of info to go over with you guys today, and the info just keeps on coming. Max Scherzer is their top target on the pitching side. This is the first time that a Jays reporter, again, Ben Nicholson Smith is a Rogers reporter, it's the first time they've said clearly what their top target is. So all the buzz surrounding Max Scherzer is very clear. You pair this with the fact that Jon Heyman came out and said that they already had a Zoom meeting. All signs are pointing to the Jays at least heavily pursuing Max Scherzer. Now, again, you go back to this report and you start to think, okay, well, if the Jays want Max Scherzer, they need to be more competitive. Okay, now there's two options when it comes to players that they're super interested in. Jurickson Profar and Pete Alonso. Now, we're going to be diving into, there's a lot more videos coming, of course, but we're going to dive into what he said at Pete Alonso. My sense is there is real interest from the Jays in signing Pete Alonso, and from my read that I have in the situation, Alonso would be okay with coming here. I think he's open to coming here. So an absolute bombshell of a report here, and there's just so much to dissect. But the fact that in this interview, he both said that the Max Scherzer's top target on the pitching side, and then the interest in Pete Alonso is very, very real. Now you're starting to wonder, okay, is this Pete Alonso and Max Scherzer package really going to happen? You pair this with what Jon Heyman dropped again earlier in the day, which is saying if they sign Pete Alonso, that's a good middle of the order. I think they underachieved anyway, and they are certainly a contender. So I think Toronto is probably the most likely team because Max Scherzer wants to go to a winner. If you sign Pete Alonso first, you follow that up. Okay, and then now Max Scherzer is going to say, okay, let's go ahead and get this done then because this team is competitive. And you talk about the lineup they have, and we'll dive into this a little bit later in the video. You throw Pete Alonso in there, you have a powerhouse of a lineup. You throw Max Scherzer in the rotation, you add a couple pieces at the end, and then this team is almost all the way back. Now, they need to actually get these done. But the sense around the team right now, whether that be from Ben Nicholson Smith, from all these reporters, there's not as much competition as there was earlier in the offseason. Like, obviously, the Jays missed out on a ton of players. Roki Sasaki, Corbin Burns, Juan Soto. They got Anthony Santander, and now they're heavily involved in a lot of these guys, and there's not many other teams linked to these players. For Pete Alonso, your main competition is the Mets. For Max Scherzer, there really hasn't been too many other teams inquiring on him. He's 40 years old. There's still some worries about how effective he'll actually be. But if you're the Jays now, you have an opportunity you got lucky in the sense of after Roki Sasaki signed, there was still a lot of players available. Not everyone was gone like the situation last year. Obviously, when they missed out on Ohtani last year, everything was pretty cooked at that point. They weren't able to get any impact players. Now, you already signed arguably the best remaining hitter in Anthony Santander. You have the possibility and have real interest in Pete Alonso. You pair that with the fact that Max Scherzer remains a target on the pitching side. And again, Jurickson Profar is another guy. We'll have another video on him. There's tons of rumors circulating that in reports. But you pair these two things together, and Ben Nicholson Smith is we all know this, he's very conservative with his information. Very conservative. He doesn't drop tidbits like this unless he's obviously hearing it because he doesn't like to give the fans a false sense of hope. Now, this is more of a rumor. This is from Mock Bomb. It blew up. I'm going to include it because of that. But as you guys know, my favorite saying, take it with a grain of salt. They've been getting a lot of questions from the Blue Jays regarding Alonso, Scherzer, and Profar. My sources are telling me the Jays' main focus is Alonso at this point in time on a 3 to 4 year, potentially up to 5 with opt-outs. They're able to get Alonso, then they look to Scherzer, which makes sense. He's gotten things right this offseason. But again, favorite saying, take it with a grain of salt. I got to get a grain of salt animation for the amount I say it, but do that here. Now, this is another thing that literally dropped about 30 minutes ago. He's a writer, and it's blowing up heavily as well. The current negotiations between, I think it's 10,000 followers or something like that. The current negotiations between Pete Alonso and the Toronto Blue Jays are legit. What isn't clear at the moment is the possibility that the Mets will be offered an opportunity to match, which is extremely intriguing to me. Because obviously the whole sentiment this offseason, he has 9,300 followers. He's an editor for, an interest. He's a writer and editor. He was on Sirius XM Fantasy as a radio host. So again, maybe, Sirius XM radio, fairly reliable thing. Maybe he's hearing some things. We'll again, take it as you will. But the fact that the second part here is interesting. What isn't clear is the possibility that the Mets will be offered the opportunity to match. There's clearly some bad blood there. He wanted to return to the Mets. They haven't been open to doing conversations. We had it earlier in the offseason, a couple weeks ago, Andy Martino come out and say that the Mets and Pete Alonso are going to go their separate ways. We've heard some other reports from Robert Murray saying, okay, maybe they're going to, be able to work it out. If you're the Toronto Blue Jays and you want to save your fan base and really get them back in, you sign Pete Alonso, you sign Max Scherzer, you sign one more bullpen piece, and you go. Now, again, the other question is Jurickson Profar. There's been a lot of buzz around that. There was a poll done here. Shout out to Lewis. Again, I only got around 640 votes here. And I'm curious, leave down below. I see a lot of you. I mean, I already know what the comments are going to say. You guys much prefer Pete Alonso. I also prefer Pete Alonso, a more guaranteed thumper, a guy that can definitely hit you 40 bombs in a given year, 30 to 40. And with Profar, if you're signing him after his best year. Prior to that, he's had years where he was well below average. So I'm on the side of Pete Alonso as well. But if they get Pete Alonso and Jurickson Profar, then things become a little bit interesting. But I'm not going to hold my breath for that. And then Max Scherzer, we covered it in the video earlier today. I mean, just an absolute dog, an absolute competitor. And this coming from Ben Nicholson-Smith is super important. Again, the fact that Max Scherzer is their top remaining target. That is the biggest thing. Something big is going to happen. And whether or not it's Max Scherzer, Pete Alonso, you could also have your plan B. And we'll, of course, cover that in future videos as well. But, your plan B is probably more on the Jurickson Profar, Jose Quintana side. Jose Quintana and then an extra hitter. Or maybe they don't even get a hitter. Because, again, we've been let down before. But for all these reports to be coming out from Ben Nicholson-Smith, for all these things to be happening, all these rumors circulating surrounding Pete Alonso and the Jays, the fit is perfect. Throw some opt-outs in there, and Pete can opt out after the first year. If he wants to retest himself in free agency, go for it. And then you have a chance to make a real big push, and you throw Pete Alonso in this lineup. Boy, oh boy, is it looking scary for opposing pitchers. But let me know down below what your thoughts are. Again, there's a lot to cover. We're going to keep you up to date with all the latest news. I appreciate each and every one of you who are watching, and I greatly appreciate all the support you're leaving down below. And again, let me know what your thoughts are on this. Would you prefer Profar, Alonso? Do you think it's super realistic? Ben Nicholson-Smith is really starting to preach the choir here, similar to what they did before they got Anthony Santander. So time is going to be of the essence here over the next few weeks. You also have the Vladdy extension. So this is the place to be for daily Jays content. As soon as the news drops, I got you covered. So make sure to hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys for watching. Take it easy. Cheers.